So welcome to Learning Series 5. This is the third session in the Learning Series. Today, we're focusing on building SEA and LEA capacity to develop school community partnerships. My name is LaShawn Richburg-Hayes. I am a vice president at WestStat and a senior advisor to the Student Engagement and Attendance Center. Other key members of this project include our project officer, Brian Keone, our other Department of Education leads, Dr. Tracy Scott and Elizabeth Limbo. And we're also joined by Sarah Frizzell, who is the project director at AIR. This is the third and final session of Learning Series 5. In our prior series in session 1, we followed how the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce and its attendance task force in particular created a comprehensive systems approach to addressing chronic absenteeism. Their approach incorporated a student and family engagement lens, as well as a strategy that implemented this approach. We then went on in session 2 to hear how Texas strengthened its approach to student engagement through integrating all the different elements of their out-of-school time programs. So today, in talking about community partnerships, we'll hear from the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction's partnership with the Department of Children and Families to build capacity at the district level to implement an innovative school community partnership. Before we delve in, just a reminder of our Learning Series objectives. If you are new to the Learning Series, our goal is to understand how state-level support strategies can provide support for student, family, and community engagement, as these can play a critical role in boosting attendance. We also strive to provide all of the attendees with strategies for integrating engagement efforts into your own comprehensive approaches to address chronic absenteeism. And then finally, the Learning Series is designed to allow you to engage with other participants from other states and facilitated breakout groups, which provides an opportunity to learn how other states and their districts are using similar strategies to yours. This particular session objectives are to provide examples of how state-level interagency collaborations can support the development of school community partnerships, but also to explore an innovative district-level school community partnership that help reduce chronic absenteeism through the use of wraparound services. So our agenda today is to hear from Wisconsin, but before we move to Wisconsin, we'll share a little bit of further background about community engagement strategies. Then we'll hear from Wisconsin for about 25 minutes. We'll have another 25 minutes for a breakout room discussion. And again, that will be a facilitated discussion. And then we will hear from the breakout rooms, wrap up, and discuss next steps. So spotlight on community engagement strategies. So why talk about community engagement strategies as part of this learning series on comprehensive strategies? Well, community engagement strategies are critical because they help connect schools, students, and families to a broad range of critical services. Services such as health, mental health, workforce development, and transportation. And these services are important because services such as these contribute to addressing some of the underlying causes of chronic absenteeism. And these services are provided across a number of different organizations and agencies. Can you go back to the prior slide? Yes. And so community engagement strategies have been shown to improve attendance through two primary studies. One in 2013 the United Way of Allegheny County launched a Be There campaign in an effort to reach over 12,000 students in the Pittsburgh region to share the importance of attending school every day. Another study, next slide, please, shows that creating a system of services can encourage engagement through bringing together a range of public, private, and nonprofit providers at the school and district level. In one study by Belfance and Barnes, they looked at a pilot of 100 schools serving over 80,000 students and found that the efforts through the Success Mentors program significantly improved students' attendance rates and reduced chronic absenteeism. This was part of New York City Schools' organized interagency task force to reduce chronic absenteeism by implementing a citywide effort connecting a number of city agencies. So now I would like to introduce today's presenters. Julie Inciti is the school work consultant at the Wisconsin Department of Public Education. And Julie, my apologies if I mispronounced your last name. Julie's primary work responsibilities include the provision of training, resource development, and technical assistance. In addition, she serves as the Wisconsin Child Abuse and Neglect Prevention and networks with a variety of state-level organizations with the goal of better provision of services to children, youth, and families. And Julie is joined by Megan Everett, who is a school social worker with the School District of Jonesville. Megan's work focuses on proactively identifying and supporting students at risk of attendance concerns and building relationships with them and their families. The program that she'll talk to us about today targets chronically absent students in grades K through 12. And with that, I will turn it over to Julie.
Great, thank you so much. And thank you to the Student Engagement and Attendance Center for inviting Wisconsin to share about our great school and community partnerships that really help us support LEAs in their family and student and community engagement efforts. So on the next slide, you'll see just some of generally the work that DPI is involved in related to family engagement specifically. So over many years, DPI has had a focus on including family engagement, student engagement, and community engagement within different specific programs or on different teams, but maybe like your state, it's a little bit piecemeal. We haven't had an overall coherent vision for this work. And so what's exciting to share with you is that in the last 9 months, DPI has really had the chance to focus in on this. We created a new team in the Office of the State Superintendent called the Operations, Partnerships, and Innovation Team. And this is really to centralize the work and to create a coherent vision for all of the family engagement, student engagement, community engagement work across the department. And so one of their first jobs was to identify a type of model or framework to adapt to Wisconsin. And so they were able to do that. This team chose the National Association for Family, School, and Community Engagement dual capacity building framework for family and school partnerships. And so they're looking at Wisconsin's unique strengths and needs and to apply that framework to our context and situation. Next slide, please. And so you'll see some of those program and policy goals really started with developing capacity and confidence of DPI staff as well as our LEA staff. And so a big project that they've been working on is creating learning modules and providing some additional coaching support around that content for our school staff and as well as for DPI staff so that all of us are better able to integrate these engagement strategies in our work. So to model this type of engagement work, even with creating the learning modules, our team has worked in close partnership with our regional centers, education centers, and there's an identified person that leads the family engagement strategies at each regional center. And then they engaged parents and school staff and students even to inform the work of the content that went into learning modules. Then they've been developed now, and then they actually piloted the modules with the actual audience, intended audience for the modules to get feedback. And so we're hoping that these modules will be available in September for the field. Another goal has been to develop connections. So they've implemented a community of practice for family engagement practitioners that have been identified in LEAs, and of course, welcoming everyone into that space. Again, it's just the state trying to open spaces for networking and sharing and collaboration between school staff, between LEAs. And then we're also focused on really shifting those beliefs and values by centering family engagement, student engagement, and community engagement within our continuous improvement models and systems, so that, again, we have this coherent vision in the state, and we're integrating this into all of the work that we do because it is so important. Next slide, please. So I just want to give you just a broad view of some of the different specific family engagement examples we have at DPI. I'm sure many of these are similar to what you see in your state, and then we have a few specific to Wisconsin. So like you, we have Title I, parent and family engagement. We have some community schools. So I saw a few people in the audience from community schools. So, you know, bringing in some really great community resources and services to be right there in the school building. We have over 70 schools engaged in community education with a point person who delivers that community education, making sure that all Wisconsin residents are learning and growing throughout all of our stages of life. But we also have WISPE, what's called the Wisconsin Statewide Parent Educator Initiative. This is a really cool initiative that is funded by IDEA and focused on students who are parents who have students with disabilities. But this group is all about partnerships. And so their goal is to help parents and school districts find or create resources that will help them build those positive working relationships for shared decision making. They offer a lot of different services, from just advocacy for parents and answering questions for parents, but also networking meetings, conferences, one-on-one consultation, and even media campaigns. We also have the State Superintendent's Family Advisory Council for Engagement. So this is a group of parents and caregivers who come to provide perspective and advice to the state superintendent on how the school system is for families and how the work of DPI is for families, for students, and for caregivers. Next slide, please. So a specific example related to our work at the SEA to support LEAs with attendance in a collaboration was to use our ESSER 3 funding to provide money to an organization called the Graduation Alliance. And what they do is provide a service to students and school districts. Once the school district opts into the service, then their services are free for the district and for the students and families. And what it does is provides a attendance and a success coach for individual students who've been identified as being at risk for absenteeism, for kids in grades K through 12. And they actually are able to then do a risk assessment, looking at what barriers the student has to attendance, what unique barriers they have. Then they build a personalized coaching success plan with that student and family. And they really provide regular connections for the student and help the student navigate the school system so that they can get back on track. So, you know, we find that school districts in Wisconsin are always asking for more people, right? If I could give them all more school social workers, I certainly would. But we don't always have that kind of funding, and we don't even have enough school social workers that are licensed in Wisconsin. And so this partnership at the state level provides just extra staff in schools, basically, who can do some deep work with individual students and families. So this program was funded by ESSER 3, which that funding is running out at the end of this month, but we have asked for additional funding in our state budget request. So on the next slide, you'll see that we have many other types of collaboration at the state level to help support and model for LEAs. And one that's been really foundational for us over the last number of years has been with the Wisconsin Department of Children and Families, particularly their youth justice professionals and their child welfare professionals. We actually grew a partnership out of our required state collaboration for supporting students who are placed in out-of-home services through ESSA's educational stability. And so because of those relationships we were able to build at the departments, we realized that we had a common interest in truancy prevention or absenteeism prevention. So the first thing that me and my colleagues did at DCF was to create a joint presentation that would focus on the school district leaders and the county human services leaders coming together, additionally with the court leader, court professionals and district attorneys, to really focus on a collaborative approach to truancy prevention in their school community. And so we put together a presentation that included basic information about Wisconsin statutes and laws and policies, and then best practice approaches from the research and the literature. And together, my partner at DCF and I went around the state and did workshops and presentations for groups such as municipal court judges, circuit court judges, district attorneys, youth justice and child welfare professionals, and then school leaders, including principals, specialized instructional support personnel like school social workers and school counselors, and directors of student services. So we did that for quite a while, really emphasizing in Wisconsin, we actually have a statute that requires a whole number of representatives in the school community, including school leaders and all of those groups of people that I just mentioned, including parents and a student, to come together every 4 years for a truancy committee where they develop a truancy plan. They have to look by statute, they have to look at the various needs and strengths in their community. They have to formulate a plan for parent and student engagement. And they have to just discuss in their community, how are they going to approach truancy prevention. And we really try to emphasize that by having that shared understanding, their community can get to a shared vision, which then can lead to shared responsibility for this work. After we did those presentations around the state, we then created some written guidance together so that it was publications coming from DCF and DPI at the same time on the same topic that were very much aligned, but just tweaked a little bit to our specific audiences. And then, we also there was a legislative speakers task force, and we did we presented testimony at a hearing together. Again, just trying to model for the LEAs what can be accomplished when we're working across systems, thinking about our natural partners. And then we created a webinar series last spring, and that's what I'm going to go into detail now. If you'll go to the next slide, please. So this spring, we had a really successful truancy prevention learning community webinar series. We really wanted to look at how can we provide a space for LEAs to come together and learn from each other, as well as to learn in partnership with their youth justice and child welfare professionals in their community, and to network and to share and to have a face and a name and an email of somebody that they could reach out to if they want to just share different ideas. And so we put together this learning series. We don't have any money at our state level to do this work, the partnership between DCF and DPI. And so we just had registration created through Zoom. The presentations were free. The learning community was free. And then we did record the sessions. We have those available on our website now. So the recordings are there, the slides are there. We created handouts with highlights from the series, and then all of the slide decks from our presenters are here. We were really lucky to have 16 different presenters or facilitators in these series. We had over 2,500 registrants from across the state. That included over 65% of all school districts were represented, over 76% of all county agencies were represented, and 3 tribal groups. So really we're able to grab a wide audience through this virtual learning series. And I just wanted to mention that we were able to find folks to come and share the strategies that they were using locally due to the relationships that we're able to form from the department, from the state department. So I, as a school social work consultant, have the ability to go to different regional meetings of school social workers and to the annual conference for school social workers to be able to reach out and get talk with them, learn about struggles and successes that schools are having in Wisconsin, and to form those relationships so that when we want to highlight some great work in the field, like great work in attendance prevention, I'm able to say, oh, I already know, for example, I know Megan, she's doing great work, and I've met her through regional meetings. So I really encourage SEAs to be sending consultants out to those kind of regional meetings and having positions like school social work consultants who are able to do that kind of thing. And so then the first session, we repeated that presentation where we talked about laws and statutes and best practices. And then the remaining 3 sessions, we brought in presenters from around the state, from youth justice, as well as from schools, to then talk about the strategies that they are actually using. So if you can go to the next slide, I was going to show you specific to family engagement during this session. And in all the sessions, we started out for 10 minutes where I presented some of the best practice strategies based on the literature, the research, the evidence, and gave a bunch of links to resources and tools. And then we had, for this session, 3 presenters: the system of care from La Crosse County in Wisconsin, from their human services agency, a school engagement and attendance specialist from our Waukesha School District, and then the promoting attendance in children and teens program from Janesville, which Megan will talk about when we get to that section. Please advance the slide. So just to share a few of the specific strategies that our folks were able to share with the whole state, the La Crosse system of care is designed to provide intervention and supports to keep youth out of the criminal justice system, mentally healthy, and in school ready to learn. And so what they have done is the school district and the county are partnering. They meet regularly on attendance. They actually have 3 different subcommittees that meet, the sort of tier 1 interventions, secondary early identification, and the tier 3 kind of wraparound supports. As a system, they're having those kind of meetings regularly. And out of that came this partnership where the county pays for half and the school district pays for half. And they have a case manager, a social worker, a behavior interventionist, somebody a professional who works closely with students and families to divert them from the youth justice system. So this program actually grabs all of the middle and high school referrals for habitual truancy before they get to youth justice, sort of. And they offer this voluntary service where this professional will get to know the family, get to know their root causes for absenteeism, and then work with them to problem solve and strategize instead of that student being referred for youth justice and getting into that system. And so they find a lot of success with their model. They find that they have this success through the flexibility, responsivity, and removing barriers that they have for families. So they actually have a 75% success rate, and they get about 70 to 80 referrals per school year. On the next slide, I'll show you again about their model. It really focuses on positive family engagement. They have a budget to go in and work with a family and work quickly to alleviate some of their basic resource concerns so that they can then get to a positive relationship and to getting to those root causes of absenteeism. They're really going to be inviting the family, working with them and compassionate listening. Their tone is supportive. They're making a connection to the family within 1 day of a referral. The family decides the time and the location of that meeting. And this professional is able to then work between systems, between youth justice and the school system, understanding both and just being that connector and really getting that student back on a positive track. And they really also work in the community to build and maintain a great reputation, so that other families will voluntarily get involved with them. On the next slide, you'll see the Waukesha School Engagement and Attendance Specialist. They were able to get a grant from the United Way to begin these efforts. But because it was grant funded, they worked on putting in place systems and processes that would then live on beyond the funding. And so this position, again, is working to students and families as well as community partners in the support of students and their attendance and groups of students. This position was specifically housed at a large high school that had significant absenteeism, and it really shifted on their mindset around their school culture. So when they're thinking about attendance or absenteeism, instead of blaming just one individual student, they were looking at, well, how is our whole community supporting this individual so that if students are hanging out at the local business, those business leaders can say, hey, you should be in school, right? And then the school is a warm place for them to go, has a warm welcome. They're building relationships and trust, which we know school belonging is foundational to absenteeism reduction. They specifically included engagement measures in their data analysis, and they really also focus on that parent and do they have a sense of belonging? And they are often asking, how are parents seen and empowered? Or what do we do here at our school to help parents feel safe, confident, and connected? On the next slide, you'll see just a few other of their specific engagement activities they do with students, including regular check-ins and positive contacts with families and students. At the beginning of the year, they go and do home visits for students who were identified as at risk of absenteeism the previous year. They do offer morning rides from the school social worker, or they have some other community members who are able to support that. They do note cards with personalized messages, as they know that parents are often not aware that a few days missed each month actually contributes to negative outcomes for students. And then overall attendance campaigns focus on that universal level, the systems level, as well as then doing different social media posts and reminders. They also have a parent advisory committee, making sure that parents' voices are heard throughout the whole system that they're setting up and how it's impacting them and their students. They also send an email specifically to students in 9th grade, which we know is a really important year to be talking about attendance, the importance of attendance, and they get a lot of positive responses from that work. So they'll just be continuing to work on those systems and processes to carry out beyond the grant funding. So I'm going to turn it over to Megan to talk about her PAC program.
Thank you, Julie. As Julie mentioned, my name is Megan Everhart, and I am a school social worker in the school district of Janesville here in Wisconsin. And I'm going to be talking about the PACT program, promoting attendance in children and teens, which I started at one of the elementary schools that I am at in about 2018. Next slide. So the PACT program, looking back, and my principal and I in 2018, we were trying to figure out ways to be proactive with attendance. And as we know, a lot of the things that we do is so much of it is reactive. And looking at those students who are truant, and when like truancy letters are generated per our state statute, if they have 5 or 4 or more unexcused absences within a semester, then a truancy letter is generated. Now, the problem that we were having was that we could have a student who is considered truant with 5 unexcused absences, but we have a student who, let's say, for example, has missed 80 days of school and they are all excused with a doctor's note. So we're not necessarily touching base with those parents because we do have a documented medical excuse from that parent for that student, but getting down to the root cause and why is the student absent is something that we were really trying to figure out. So in the summer of 2018, we decided that after the school year was done, that myself, my principal, and our school resource officer was going to go and do home visits to all of those students who had missed 10% of school or more for that school year. So instead of considering and looking at only the students who are truant, we are looking at all of those students who are chronically absent and not only focusing on those unexcused absences, but all of the absences would be included in that. So during those home visits, we kept it 100% positive and really being able to show that collaboration between school, home, and community and building those positive relationships with everyone was something that we at Jackson really strive for, and that we strive, like I said, we strive for and want to make sure that everyone feels welcome, the families, the students, aunts and uncles, grandparents. If they walk through that door, then they are able to talk with us and they feel like they're part of our family. So we do that the week after school is out, so early June. And some of the simple questions that we ask, what barriers do we have? We have a large population that they're bused into school. So does that mean that we need to change their bus route or change the bus that they are on? Is there anything that we can help you with? Do you need an alarm clock? Do you need some resources for some mental health counseling or for your family? Do you need some community resources for food, for lodging? Is there anything that you need from us? Whether it's I've made phone calls at 7:45 when I get in every day. I've gone to home visits every day in the morning for the last 2 weeks of school one year, just to make sure that they were up and ready to go. The big piece that we strive for, like I had mentioned, is, that collaboration between homeschool and community. And as a school social worker, that's one of our goals. It's pretty much, our motto, making sure that everyone is connected. We we called them PACT advocates. And so those were youth advocates that were hired through the ESSER funding. And they were placed at both of our high schools and 3 of our middle schools to help and support the school social workers who were identifying these students who were at risk of being chronically absent. And they met with students on a daily basis, met with the families, and would do the same thing that the school social workers were doing just to support them. And unfortunately, because of the ESSER funding we no longer have that for this school year. So those responsibilities are back on to those school social workers in each of those buildings. At the elementary level where I am currently at, I am the one that is making sure that I'm checking in with the students daily that I identified from the previous year who were chronically absent. Like I said, checking in with them daily, touching base with the families, seeing how things went, if anything has changed, and then making sure that what we are putting in place is sustainable for those families. At the district level, something that we were able to do is our superintendent worked really closely with our city to ensure that all students K through 12 were able to ride our Janesville transit system for free by showing a school ID. So that has shown to increase the ridership by at least 217%. And that's one of those barriers that we see a lot, is we don't have transportation to get our students to school. So by doing all of those and making sure that our home visits and our collaborations with the students and the families and our community and anything else that we can do with our city, that we can get those attendance increase our students who are at school, because this is where they need to be and we love them and they are part of our community.
I just wanted to mention that one thing I also loved about those PACT advocates, I had a chance to talk with some, and they were actually hired from the community. So many of them were graduates of Janesville, and they were able to come back and support other students. So young adults, from the communities where the students lived, being able to support them and mentor them. So that was really exciting. On the next slide, just quickly, a few of those recommendations then, key takeaways from our work here today, just noting that it's so important to model the collaboration for your LEAs at the state level, thinking about who our natural partners are, like our youth justice professionals over at the Department of Children and Families. We're all working on the same thing, so let's work on it together. Then we want to just emphasize the importance of having consultants from the SEA being able to attend regional meetings and really networking with professionals in schools to understand their successes and challenges, and have them being able to share best practices. And then making that space available for LEAs to showcase and share their work, to network with each other, because they can hear me talk about best practices all day long, but what they really want to hear is, how is the school district next to me actually implementing all of these great ideas? And I'll just also mention that we did also do a session specific to school and county collaborations, and you'll find that recording, slides, highlights, webinar, handouts all on our website as well, to hear about how do schools and counties begin their collaborations, and then how do they make them successful. So thank you.
Thank you, Julie and Megan. We have a few questions in the Padlet. Julie, the first question is for you, and this is coming from Christina from Kentucky. Can you say more about the individual student risk assessment process to determine the students' barriers to attendance? And I believe this came in while you were talking about the lacrosse system of care.
Yeah, actually, it most likely came, our Graduation Alliance success coaches do a type of risk assessment with students. And actually, I am not sure what that program uses. That's not something that the department created or is involved in. That's something specific to Graduation Alliance and their work. So I'm not sure what they're using.
Thank you. And the second question is from Porteous, is how is Wisconsin measuring impact and effectiveness of the strategies that you use? And do you have any initial findings?
Yeah, so we just have, for example, from the webinar series or conference workshops, just numbers of registrants and folks being engaged and involved with us. And then the individual districts are the ones who would have more data, like Megan does, related to the success of their programs. And for any of the presenters from our series, they have their slide decks, which many of them did include their data measures on there.
Thank you. So for the audience, please feel free to drop any additional questions into the Padlet. Both Julie and Megan will be available while we're in breakout groups, and so they can answer your questions. But for now, we will transition to our breakout group discussion. And so we will have 25 minutes to discuss two main questions. The first one, what can you adapt from Wisconsin's presentation for your state or district? And what methods does your state or district use to build capacity for student, family, and community engagement? So we will break out into small groups. You all will be randomly assigned to a breakout room where a facilitator will lead the discussion. And because we are a little behind time, we will probably need to limit our discussion to 15 to 20 minutes rather than 25, but we had such great information that I'm sure it will be a really rich discussion. The Padlet will be available in each of the breakout rooms. And as I said, if you have questions, please feel free to drop it in the first column of the Padlet. And with that, let's move into our breakout rooms. Welcome back, everyone. We were monitoring the Padlet while you were in your breakout sessions, a lot of activity. So I'm wondering if David can share some of the discussion in his breakout session.
Absolutely. Thank you, LaShawn. And in room 2, the great breakout room 2, we had a really robust conversation with a lot of different voices. And one thing that stood out to me was around modeling the behavior of collaboration. And so as a state education agency, taking an opportunity to demonstrate to local education agencies in which the ways in which individuals from a state agency can collaborate with other departments, other agencies, or even offices within the education agency. That really struck a chord with a lot of people in the room, and it certainly did with me as well. We also had some great examples of providing grants and grounding it in the work of the dual capacity framework from Dr. Karen Mapp, which is something we'd featured here at SEAC previously.
Thank you, David. And Kelly, I'm wondering if you could share some of the discussion in your session.
Let's see, I'm going to do my best here. Much like David's group 7, I believe I was group 7. Well, I had Minnesota, Oregon, and Virginia in my group. And they were all just giving a lot of accolades to Wisconsin for your approach and wanting you to know that they'll be looking for your best practices. And someone in Minnesota said she can drive right over there, so she may, to see you because she's very interested in your work. I thought it was very interesting that the Boys and Girls Club of Oregon was in the room, and they said they really love their connection that Wisconsin has with regional events, and also mentioned that they are a bridge. If partners in schools reach out to them, they're a bridge to help kids who are having issues with truancy and school absences. So they like the PACT advocate role. They believe that's a good term, and the fact that these folks are on the ground. So parental involvement, that's another thing. They said that's key, and they felt that was a very good role that Wisconsin it's taking the lead on, helping ensure that there's parental involvement.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.
Are there any attendees that would like to add or contribute? I don't see any hands.
I think Sarah Nelson.
Hi. Our team kind of, we had great discussions and cut our time just a little bit short, but I did want to point out that in the chat, I placed the QR code for a digital toolkit that has just been released in the state of Maine. One of the things that's fantastic about it is it's only a 13-page document. It's succinct. There was a lot of cross collaboration. We worked with Count Me In, an agency in the state of Maine that was extremely helpful in pulling this together, but it addresses all the different components of attendance, including early childhood, family engagement, health, all kinds of different things, but it's a very succinct document, making it easy for SAUs and to look at and gather. There are linked resources and very clear strategies that have been very helpful.
Thank you, Sarah. And so I hope everyone is able to see the QR code in the chat. Before we move to wrap up, are there any last additions?
Can I just ask a quick clarifying? It looks like the QR code goes, in the chat. It goes to the cell page. And was there a specific digital attendance toolkit that is on that page that I'm not seeing? I just want to clarify.
It should take you right to our SEL page on the Maine Department of Education website. Let me try and see if there was a.
I heard, but there was already 3 people.
I'm having a hard time pulling it up right now. I apologize.
It's absolutely going to the cell main page. I was maybe looking for the digital attendance toolkit and I wasn't seeing it on that page. So that's what I'm confused about.
It should be the first thing that's listed right there on that, on the SEL page. Let me pull up the page right now. And it should be right. Is anyone else having a?
Just drop the link in the chat. So we now have a link in the chat directly, which is great.
Are you able to locate it there? I was digging a little deeper there, sorry.
Yes, we have it, Sarah, thank you. And so with that, we will move to wrap up. We would love to get your feedback on our session today. We will also drop into the chat a form where you can provide feedback. We design these sessions to meet your needs. So the more feedback you provide us, the more we can curate these sessions with your needs in mind. We also have this QR code on the screen so that you can access the form. In terms of what's next, we'll share a follow-up email that it will include the session slides and all of the resources shared, all of the links dropped into the chat. And if you are interested in working with someone from SEAC 101 or interested in our leveraging a connection to the Wisconsin presenters, please reach out to us at SEACenter@westat.com. Thank you all for your participation and engagement today, and we hope this information was helpful in moving forward to help us all address chronic absenteeism and help students stay in school. Thank you.